Welcome to IN60, where my guest is Phil Ryan, Managing Director of Trilogy Funds. Phil, welcome.
Hi, James.
I'm going to ask you a series of short, sharp questions, Phil, where after short, sharp answers, you can pass on any question, and your time starts now. Phil, what's the best investment you've ever made?
Well, James, number one for me is education. I've been investing for 45 years. The other one is business. Trilogy's grown to 60 employees, and we manage the affairs of 10,000 investors since 1998.
What's the most important input to property market investment returns?
Really understanding where we are in terms of the market cycle. Understanding risk is, I think, at the foundation of any investment.
Phil, can you summarise the last 3 years in just 3 words?
Well, it's a little hard to do in three words, James, but what I can say, initial fear, opportunity, and then followed by price increases, and that's driven by shortage of supply.
We've had 2 years now of experience with the COVID pandemic in various forms. Phil, what's the biggest life lesson from 2020 to 2022 for you?
Yeah, look, the biggest life lesson is really the quick reaction by Western governments and central banks to really what was a health crisis. You contrast that to years ago in the 1990s, you contrast it also to the GFC. The other thing which has really been a surprise to me is just the psychology of investors in terms of fear of missing out on demand and also fear of vendors in terms of supply as well.
What's your biggest red flag when considering any investment?
It's always over exuberance and overpaying, James.
Where do you see the most interesting investment opportunities today, Phil?
Look, James, I always believe in finding value, and to us that's finding sectors that we like, such as industrial, particularly in regional areas, and also some commercial and retail where it's a bit of a counterplay.
Cash flow, debt, valuation or profit? What's the most important of those 4 to you?
It's always valuation. If it doesn't stack up on a valuation metric, why buy it?
Phil, if you could hold only one asset for the next 10 years, what would that be?
I'm a big believer, James, in everyone owning their own home, because you can add value to it yourself, you get to live in it as well, and it's also tax-free on sale.
What concerns you the most about the Australian economy right now?
I think, like everyone, it's interest rates. You know, we are at the beginning of a rate cycle, which is actually inflationary in itself. And some assets will benefit through lease reviews, such as industrial, commercial, retail. And resi will increase as well because costs will increase and also wages. But there's a tipping point, and that's the concern I've got, is that the tipping point could be that the RBA increases rates too quickly, and it can mean that markets might react adversely to that. I don't think this year, but it could be next year.
What are you most optimistic about, Phil, for Australia and Australians going forward?
Yeah, well, James, I'm particularly patriotic about my own hometown in Brisbane. Very optimistic on Brisbane growth, both in employment and also infrastructure. We've got the new casino, Olympics, etc. So a big believer in resi, particularly in Brisbane, but also in startup businesses. You know, just look at the amount of energy being put to venture capital, to IT and the like, particularly in Brisbane as well. And I'm very positive about that.
Phil Ryan from Trilogy Funds, thank you very much for being on IN60.
Thank you, James.